And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Space and Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, January 27th, 2025, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. Second show of 2025. Super excited about that. We got two exciting reviews tonight. We are going to be reviewing Flight Plan, the new action thriller starring Michelle Dockery and Mark Wahlberg, as well as Presence, the new psychological horror movie from auteur director Steven Soderbergh. I say we jump right in, starting with our first review tonight. Flight Plan, directed by Mel Gibson. This is his first movie in about 8 years since Hacksaw Ridge. This focuses on a U.S. Marshal played by Michelle Dockery named Madeline, who is tasked with escorting a top witness played by Topher Grace via plane through Alaska all the way down to Seattle. While on this plane, she is being piloted by a just normal-seeming pilot by the name of Daryl, played by Mark Wahlberg. But wouldn't you know it, as the flight starts going on, it turns out that Daryl is actually someone who is tasked with killing Topher Grace's character to make sure he does not testify against the criminals that he was doing accounting and book handling for. If you've seen the trailer, you know essentially the whole premise of this film is now Madeline has to find a way to stay alive on this plane while keeping Daryl at bay and keeping him in captivity, so that way she can also deliver him to custody as well. Mel Gibson is someone who used to, obviously, there was a time when he was one of the biggest actors on the planet, but there was also a time where every time he directed a movie, he hasn't directed a ton of movies, but every single time he did direct a movie, it was a big deal. He obviously won the Oscar for Braveheart when waited about around 9 years to make another movie. Then he made The Passion of the Christ, which was another huge movie. He made Apocalypto, Hacksaw Ridge. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen that. I think it was a really, really well done horror movie. I think Mel Gibson is a very good director when he does have the right material. So when I saw the trailers for this movie, I was like, wow, this seems like a weird type of movie for Mel Gibson to be directing. It looks like a just sort of run-of-the-mill junky action movie, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have like an Oscar-winning director like Mel Gibson making it, I was just a little surprised by the fact that he was going to be doing this type of project. So watching this movie, I was like, is he going to be bringing a little bit more class this direction? Is he going to be making this a little bit more watchable of film? And while I'm not going to deny and say that I didn't have fun while watching this film, I have to be honest and say this is a pretty bad movie, all things considered. Yeah, it really is just kind of crazy seeing Mel Gibson direct such a bare bones action thriller like this. Like, you got to address the elephant in the room. Mel Gibson has dealt with a lot of personal issues in the past. It's there have been a lot of voicemails that have been leaked about him. He doesn't have the greatest opinions on a lot of things. I'm not here to comment on him as a person, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say this made it a little bit tougher for him to get jobs directing and acting in film. So I guess that makes sense why he would take this sort of movie. But yeah, it is just kind of crazy in a vacuum to see someone like Mel Gibson direct this junky movie like this. The plot is beyond thin, which isn't like that big of a deal. Like, we open on Topher Grace's character. His character's name is Winston. We open on him in a hotel room, and we open on him getting arrested. Right from there, we kind of just jump forward into the plane, and then we're just off on the plane with these three characters. We have a lot of scenes where Madeline is just talking on talking on her headset to people, trying to figure out how to fly this plane, where to go, where to land it. Yeah, plot is very, very thin. Not too much goes into it. We do eventually learn that there's someone that is a mole inside of Madeline's department that essentially gave Daryl the ability to infiltrate this flight school in order to get on this plane to kill Winston. But yeah, the plot doesn't really go anywhere that you would really expect, which isn't really a problem, I'll be honest, when it comes to these like really fun, like, this is going to sound like a pun, but like an airport thriller type movie. I don't need like a super intricate plot, but I got to tell you like how it is. The plot of this movie isn't really anything special. Michelle Dockery, as I said, plays the lead of Madeline. And I think she does legit a very good job as the character of Madeline. Michelle Dockery does a great job at keeping you invested in the stakes. Her character is someone who you immediately learn has been doing this for a while. She's been working on the job for like 6 or 7 years. She knows how to handle herself in super difficult situations. She plays in a very stern way, not too many jokes. She does have moments though where she's talking with people over the headset, and you do see a lot of humanity in her role. Michelle Dockery does a great job, and I would love to see her in more like low budget action thrillers like these, because she does seem to be really, really in her element, and I do want to shout her out. And she does keep you mildly invested in the stakes of this movie. As I said again, the plot doesn't really give you too much stakes beyond the, oh, if our characters don't succeed, they're gonna die in this plane. But her performance does keep you a little bit more invested. Mark Wahlberg, he's having a lot of fun as the character of Daryl. When we first are introduced to him, he's doing this awful Southern accent, trying to pretend to be someone he's not. And at first I was like, what is Wahlberg doing? But then you realize, okay, it's supposed to be a bad accent. Like the second we realize that he's the bad guy, he immediately goes into his normal Boston accent. It's really fun to see him in this role. I think my major issue with Wahlberg in this film is he's really not in it a ton. Like, he's always in the plane, he's always with them, but for the majority of the film, he's usually just in handcuffs in the back of the plane, trying to find a way to escape, or just knocked out. And when you have Wahlberg in this full like scumbag villain mode, I really was just a little disappointed that Mel Gibson didn't give him like at least more scenes to work with. Like, this is the type of movie I would be totally down if Mel Gibson would have just said, all right, Wahlberg, this is just gonna be a 2-minute scene of you just yelling profanities at Topher Grace and Michelle Dockery in the back of this plane, and I would have really enjoyed that personally. But yeah, I think the fact that Wahlberg really isn't in it a ton is honestly kind of a fault with this movie. Topher Grace, I'll be honest, I thought he was super, super annoying as the character of Winston. Like, he plays this part like, oh guys, what are we gonna do? Oh my gosh! Oh, he's the bad guy, Madeline. Oh, we're gonna die in this plane. And he's constantly acting in like this really high pitched register. Like, always seems like he really needs like a glass of water at all times. I don't think you're supposed to like this character, at least the beginning. As the movie starts going on, I feel like you're supposed to be a little bit more sympathetic towards him, and I just couldn't get into him because I just thought Topher Grace was really, really annoying. I'll be honest, I could have at least given this movie like a passing grade as like a really dumb action movie if it wasn't for him, but I thought he was easily the worst part of this film. And he's an actor that's given performances that I like. I like him in Traffic, I like him in other things, but in this role, he was just, he went a little bit too much on the annoying scale for me, that it just started to become a little bit intolerable as a movie watcher. Movie is very short. It has a runtime of like a little over 90 minutes. And I'll be honest, I think it probably you could have had at least maybe like 10 more minutes with this type of concept to be like a little bit more invested. Like I said, the plot is really bare bones. And if it would have taken maybe like 10 more minutes to give me like 1 or 2 more action scenes in the plane, because when we do have scenes where Daryl starts to take control of the steering wheel. What do you call the thing that steers a plane? Essentially, when Daryl gets control of the control panel again, there's a little bit more stakes to that because then Madeline has to overpower him. Daryl tries to overpower both Winston and Madeline. Those are really cool scenes, and if the runtime was just a little bit longer, I think we could have had more scenes like that. Gibson is able to direct some of the action well. Again, like most of the scenes where you do have like close quarter combat and where it does feel cramped inside the plane, it does look good. But again, there are some scenes in this movie that just look so fake. Specifically the scenes where you see the plane in action from the outside. You see it crash into certain things. Towards the end, we see the plane attempting to be landed, and it looks beyond fake. There is one scene towards the ending of this film where, without spoiling anything, something pivotal happens to one of the characters. It looked so beyond fake, it looked so cheap that I couldn't help but just bursting out laughing because it felt so out of place with everything the movie had been going towards. Because even though this has a very like dumb premise, a very like silly fun setup, it takes itself pretty seriously. Sorry. It takes itself pretty seriously to the point where I felt like I was supposed to be pretty invested in the story and not be like laughing and having like a good time, which is why I think the movie primarily fails. And if the movie maybe would have had a little bit more tongue-in-cheek attitude towards it, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. It either needed to be it either needed to embrace how stupid it was, or it needed to just be of a higher quality of what an actress like Michelle Dockery is giving to this film, because everything just kind of seems out of place. And when you have super cheap and fake looking scenes like that, it really takes you out. Again, I think the best way to describe this movie is it feels like complete and utter junk food cinema. This is a kind of a term I've sort of coined. I've kind of heard like similar terms for it. Junk food cinema is to me like a movie I don't necessarily hate, but it really just feels like empty calories when you're watching it. Like when you're watching it, it really is just sort of like a turn your brain off sort of mode. You're not going to get too much out of it, but you're not going to completely hate your time unless it is bad junk food cinema. Like there is such thing as bad junk food cinema. Again, this is kind of a bad movie, but I don't think it's like a completely horrible and unwatchable experience. But yeah, this is a little bit tough to recommend if I'm being honest. If I were to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, 0 being absolutely awful, 10 being absolutely incredible, I think I'm going to give it a 4. It's a bad movie. I'm not going to lie. There are some good elements of it. Again, Michelle Dockery is an actress I haven't seen a ton of, but I hope she gets more work. I wish we had more villain roles from Mark Wahlberg like this. Mel Gibson probably could direct more junky action movies like this. I just think it just takes a little bit too many missteps in the wrong direction. Yeah, Topher Grace is just too annoying. If you're down for dumb action movies, maybe go see this in theaters. If not, save this for TV. You will have a fun time watching it. But yeah, I can't call this a good movie, and I do need to say, and I do need to warn you guys what you are getting into when you see this movie. It really isn't all that great. But yeah, I say we jump right into the next movie, the much better film that I saw this weekend, that being Presence. This is a ghost story directed by Steven Soderbergh. This follows a family that just moved into a new house and slowly start to realize that the ghost of the daughter's dead friend that recently passed away is currently haunting them inside of this house. Not in a violent way, but they are definitely around. And the main pitch of this film is that it is all told through the ghost's perspective. Every single shot, every single scene, we are seeing it from a first-person view, but obviously we never really are introduced to these characters because they are dead, and we are viewing them from ghosts. From the ghost perspective. It's not a spoiler to say they are ghosts. It sets up pretty quickly that the ghosts are real. There's never really like a mystery of saying like, are the ghosts here? Are they not? The audience always knows that. Just wanted to let you guys know before I get into the majority of this review. But yeah, this is a really fun concept for a haunted house movie. It doesn't fall into a lot of the typical tropes that a lot of haunted house movies happen to fall into. Like with me saying there are ghosts in the movie, you might expect that like, okay, so maybe towards the end we start seeing like more things fall off shelves, more like loud noises, characters start getting attacked, and we really don't get that. Like, yeah, the ghosts are a very small presence, my bad, in these characters' lives, but mainly we are really just following the family from our perspective, and we really do feel like outsiders watching them all interact with each other as they all are kind of going through this really troubled time in their life. Chloe, the daughter, is starting to become really rebellious because she feels strange that her friends overdosed and she lived, and she feels like it's unfair that they were taken from the world. Her brother Tyler has become super like pissed off that their parents are giving her so much grace and not telling her that it's time to grow up. They have a lot of arguments. Lucy Liu plays the mother, who's really just trying to like keep this family together. Lucy Liu's probably the most well-known actress in this film. All the other actors tend to be unknowns, but they're all giving very good performances. Specifically, the performance from Kalina Lang as Chloe. She does a really great job of keeping everything sort of like internal with her character, keeping her like trauma like inside. She does a lot of great job at like performing with her face, like without the dialogue. The other performance I want to spotlight. I can't say why I think this performance is great. But Wes Mulholland, who plays Tyler's friend, without getting too much into it, Tyler's friend kind of has a little bit more to do with the plot than we are immediately told. We start realizing that this what's his character's name? I wrote down. Ryan might have feelings for Chloe, and seeing their relationship bud as these two like really troubled teens, that is really interesting. But yeah, the main selling point is just how this movie is told and how it's told from the first person perspective, because it really does make us feel like these passive observers as we're watching these characters in their lives. Soderbergh is someone who is always exceptional at when he decides to go with a gimmick. He never breaks that gimmick, and you never break the gimmick of the fact that you are watching it from the ghost perspective. The whole film is told through these really ambient and really atmospheric long takes. Very few edits in the film. Will have some scenes where we're seeing characters living their lives in one room, and then we watch the ghost just walk to the other room, and we see how these characters are living. It weirdly kind of feels like a better version of Here, the Robert Zemeckis movie I reviewed last year, but obviously while that movie is just stuck to one shot, the fact that we are with a ghost makes it really just a lot more effective and a lot easier to connect with everything that is going on. So I want to give the movie props for that. The way how Soderbergh uses sound in this movie, just when you have certain things like start to fall off, like eventually the ghost starts interacting with the world a little bit, like we'll have certain characters like talking or even like kissing, and then just shells will start falling, and just how loud it feels, I think, is really well done. The score by Zach Ryan is excellent. Soderbergh's movies are often lauded for their use of music, and I really think it is very well done here. If I just had one complaint, and I know I'm obviously describing this as a ghost story, describing it how these characters are in a haunted house, I don't think it comes together the greatest at the end. Towards the end, I was just a little puzzled, like, okay, it really does kind of feel like we sort of dropped the whole ghost elements and then just sort of remembered, oh wait, we got to tie everything back together in the last scene. And I think if those elements were a little bit more at the forefront throughout the majority of the third act, I think I would have enjoyed it. Like it could have been like an all-timer. I could have been saying like this is one of the best movies at the end of the year. But as it is, I still do think it is a really well done film, and that really is like my only major complaint. It's around 90 minutes. It does not overstay its welcome. I don't think this is a movie that needed to be much longer than it was. I think Soderbergh knows how to use a short runtime really well, and by the end of the film, I felt like I've seen a really great family drama from just a really unique perspective. Ooh, it looks like I got a comment. Just letting you know that the title of this vid says Flight Plan, not Flight. Oh, wow. That is my bad. Thank you, Michael. We all make mistakes. Whoops. That is my bad. Yes, I was not reviewing Flight Plan with Jodie Foster. Thank you, Michael. But yeah, Presence, really, really well done film. If I were to review this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, I'm going to go high. I'm going 8.5 out of 10. This is another really, really well done movie from Steven Soderbergh. He's a director I have not seen as many movies as I would like to have seen, but almost everything I have seen from him, I do love, and this is another really great film from him. It's always great to see him directing theatrical films again. I believe he has another movie coming out in like 2 months with Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. But yeah, I would really, really highly recommend you go out and check this movie in theaters. January is always sort of like known as one of the lower quality months of the year, so it's fun to get a really great thriller like this at the beginning of the at the beginning of the year like this, and I would highly recommend you go check it out in theaters. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the video store. It helps grow our channel a lot. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing Companion and Dog Man. Really excited for that. Again, thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, watch more movies.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.